Hello viewers, welcome to my YouTube channel Curiosity Wax, and this is an autism education video, and I am answering the question, what does this spectrum thing mean? How diverse is autistic experience and expression really? This was asked by @Project1Enigma on Twitter. So I'm really scared about doing these education videos because I feel like people might judge me and say I'm stupid or something if I get it wrong. I don't know how I'd get it wrong, but because it's my opinion, but I'm scared. But anyway, let's get started. So the autism spectrum, I feel that people tend to think of it as lying with some sort of derivation of like low functioning to high functioning, and I don't find that particularly helpful, because regarding a line to measure something, I think it works for the Kinsey scale of sexuality because it's measuring one dimension of something, from gay, 100% gay to 100% straight. So it's easy for somebody to be positioned on that line and perhaps like flow up and down the line. But I don't think that really works with autism, because it's not just about one thing. It can be like many different things. It is many different things, and the intensity of those different things can change day to day and minute to minute. So what I agree with more is the idea that it should be like the autism constellation. So imagine that there's infinite constellations. Every person with autism will have their own unique constellation, and sometimes the stars will shine brighter and sometimes they'll be not so bright, and they can shine from bright to not so bright, and they can constantly change. So each autistic person is formed of a different constellation. And I know this isn't strictly scientifically accurate about constellations, but I made this little picture, and what it is that we have our own constellation, but sometimes we can share a star. So we might share a difficulty or an ability with someone, but that can change. It's always changing. So, and it's not just measuring one thing, it's like all these different things about us. So that's why I think it's better to think of it as a constellation. So the rest of the question asks, how diverse is? Well, it's diverse as one human being being different from another human being. It is incredibly diverse. Like, I don't know how to say it more than that. It's just incredibly diverse. No autistic person is going to be exactly the same as another autistic person. So you can't like think, oh, autistic people, they're all the same, or by saying autistic you mean one thing, or saying that person's autistic, so they can be the same as everybody else, because they're not. Each autistic person is different. And I guess, shall we chuck in another question? So we'll chuck in the other question here of, what are the degrees of autism? I have seen some people with autism who don't talk and seem very low functioning. You, on the other hand, meaning me, must be high functioning. And that question is from Candy's channel on YouTube. So now to go on to the perception of functioning, I would say that this functioning label is just so unhelpful and needs to change, because it's not about a case of somebody's permanently low functioning, somebody's just permanently high functioning. We each have different difficulties that can change throughout our lifetimes and even throughout the day. So I don't agree with this being of a line of the spectrum saying very low functioning, high functioning, because it's just not helpful. Now, there are some of us who can't talk, and some of us who find day-to-day life perhaps incredibly difficult because we don't have the accommodations that we need. Like some people are find iPads and communication systems extremely helpful to help them communicate, because if they find it hard to use their voice, they can use their iPad, as long as it's their choice and as long as they're not being forced to pick certain words. If you can give a kid, an autistic kid, an iPad, that is one of the best things they can have, and access to the internet, as long as it's appropriate and they can't access like porn and unhealthy stuff, then that's one of the best things. And also, it's not about being low functioning or high functioning, it's what resources you have. Like if you have a lot of sensory toys, they can really help you cope with certain situations. So autistic people who might have a lot of trouble living their life day to day, you can create a lot of accommodations. You can give them sensory input and that they want, or you can just, I don't really know how to go more in depth to people who perhaps find it difficult day to day, because obviously I don't find it as difficult because I can do some things myself. Being high functioning. Now, when I was little, I wasn't very high functioning. I could barely dress myself, and I could only manage to go to the swimming pool without anybody nagging at me when my mum came to help me get dressed. So during my school years, even into high school, I found getting dressed and getting changed for sports really difficult, and it was very slow, and it was just so fiddly. And this might be embarrassing, but high functioning, I wasn't very good at toileting. Even into high school, I found toileting difficult because I was scared. In fact, I was very scared of communicating that I needed to go to the toilet. So it took me pretty much into high school to become unscared to use the toilet. So I guess you could say during that time of growing up, I was low functioning regarding toileting issues. So as you can see, you can't just judge somebody on a video that, they can talk on a video and they can present that they are high functioning and that's it, that they're perfect and that they can just go out, get a job, talk to people and everything. They just find it really easy, because they don't. Because also, as I was growing up, I was selectively mute, which means it's just a freeze mechanism of not being able to talk. So at primary school, I couldn't talk because I was too scared. And even But I could, when I got home, I could talk. But I mostly went on my Amiga 500 to play Golden Axe. So selectively mute is not a choice. It's not an active decision. It's just freezing. And even with a lot of my family, I am selectively mute. I just freeze and don't really feel comfortable. But I'm very slowly starting to get through that and starting to be able to open up with my cousins. With my aunties and uncles it's a little bit harder, but with my cousins it's a little bit easier. But I have a favourite auntie who I'm just completely myself with, and then another auntie who I'm verging on to being more myself with, but not totally. And then the other relatives, because we've got a massive family, it's scary. So another, this is another thing that I struggle with, that is speech. Not just the selectively mute stuff, is speech and words and connecting all my words together. And for nearly all my growing up, I've been really annoyed with my parents and my dad, because I'd get so annoyed because he kept not being able to understand me. And it seems like I have a difficulty with mumbling and talking clearly, but I'm getting better at that. But I got really annoyed and I'd just shout at him because I thought he was just doing it on purpose, and I'd just get really annoyed because I could hear exactly what I was saying, but apparently I wasn't being clear enough, so I'd shout instead of perhaps just slowly pronouncing each word. I'd shout my head off because it would really annoy me. Because another thing that happened with my dad, which I eventually understood, was when we used to be in the car, he'd be going like, and it'd really annoy me, and I'd get so annoyed about it. It's like, but I wouldn't say anything, but in my head I was like, oh, that's so annoying. Then eventually I realised he was looking in the mirror to see the cars behind, and that movement was essential to being able to drive. So that took me a while to understand. So this is why it's not quite as easy for me to do these autism education videos, because I sort of get off topic, sort of find it hard to just bullet point it. But I hope sharing my own experiences is helping you to understand. So more into what the degrees of autism are. I don't know. Well, there's some people who are non-verbal, who can't talk verbally, but their body language is always communicating. Even if autistic people can't actually express words with their throat, body language, we're always communicating. Stems, we're always communicating. Stems mean something. Every stem that I do means something. This is when I'm sort of thinking of ideas and stuff and getting excited about ideas. I can't stop now. And then I've got this one, which is like, somebody said something nice. Oh, I have a parcel full of interesting stuff to open. then there's an even bigger version of that one, which is trigger bouncing too, which is when like there's a boy who likes me, or I have hugs and stuff with nice boys. That's a bigger version. And then that's what happens when I'm happy. And then my nervous when I'm waiting in the doctors, or yeah, pretty much that when I'm waiting in the doctors is like this. Sort of, I don't know, I guess sort of trying to hide, and also I sit really far forward on the seat because I don't want any germs, because I have a lot of trouble with OCD. But and then when it's general nervousness that isn't about medical stuff, I tend to tug on my sleeves a lot, so it start tugging on my clothing. And then when I fancy a boy, I will do the typical hair twirling thing and hold my clothes up like this and start fiddling with my clothes if I fancy a boy. So I have lots of communication with my body language, and I do rock backwards and forwards, as you probably can tell on a lot of my videos. When I'm reading, I rock backwards and forwards, and sometimes when I'm talking about stuff what I'm emotional about, I'll have a teddy bear next to my face, because I do like having the input of soft things on my face. So I just don't know how to respond to the statement that I must be high functioning just by seeing me on a video, because it's really difficult, because I have a lot of difficulty getting into a daily routine of washing and hygiene stuff. I tend to like not be able to do showering every day, and my house is usually a complete mess, so I find keeping tidy and organised and not losing stuff very difficult. As I've said, toileting can be tricky sometimes. I find it hard to talk to people a lot of the time. I did have a job once, but I got the sack, so because I couldn't do the sums. I guess if you're going to go with this high functioning sort of thing, then I guess high functioning I would be pretty good at teaching myself to draw art and stuff, although I still get really insecure that I'm not as perfect as the old masters. But I do like doing my art, and I can sing, so I just like, just because somebody with autism doesn't talk, they're not low functioning. We just need like extra accommodations, like things to touch, and because we experience everything with our whole self. We're not analysing every input that comes in, saying, now what does that mean? Now that means that, and that means my body is reacting that way, because everything comes into us and we can't, so we need to process it all with our whole body. So if somebody's not talking, doesn't mean they're not understanding, and they are always understanding and taking everything in. So if somebody like talks about them and talks about them in a nasty way, they're taking that all in, and it's affecting their self-esteem. So even if you they can't communicate in the what is classed as the normal way, doesn't mean they're not taking everything in with our whole bodies. So, yeah. It's really difficult because in my 20s I was a little bit more confident, but that was because I had my first boyfriend. So I went to the students' union and stuff. But also in my 20s I wasn't very well mentally at all because I had the menopause. Well, I had earlier premature ovarian failure, which I've just seen in my notes, because I was just looking for my diagnostic sheet for my Asperger's diagnosis, which I was officially diagnosed with Asperger's in 2014 when I was 34, but I've just had a look at it because I was just going to do a video about it, and it's hard to really collect it and make sense of it, so I thought, well, scrap that idea. But yeah, so that's what happened to me in my 20s, and I was quite mentally ill up till about, I've forgotten when I started my antidepressants, up to about 2 years ago when I started my antidepressants. I was very mentally ill and thinking weird things and just having weird thoughts. And I still have trouble with bad thoughts and weird thoughts in my head, but antidepressants got me a lot more motivated to do YouTube and be creative, and the motivation to be creative helped a lot, and then I was being creative, so that helps too. I don't know if I ever want to come off my antidepressants though, because they really do help me, and I don't want all the weird thoughts to come back, because I used to be screaming my head off during the night because I couldn't cope with. I've always found it very difficult to cope with relationships and being in romantic relationships, and feelings of jealousy and feelings of not really being able to share somebody, because the feeling that if I shared that person that I love and that person has other friends, then they might hate me, might end up hating me and not want me, because I'm scared that other people will take them away. So I've always struggled with that. And there's been times when I've been so in love with somebody and then they broke my heart, and I really loved them, but I cherish the very little time I had with them. I do cherish that, but I really loved them. They broke my heart. So I've always had trouble being with romantic relationships. So I had trouble with building barriers around myself, and then being really jealous, and then just not being able to fit in with this sort of neurotypical culture of everybody flirts because it's normal, because that's what people do. I've never been able to cope with that. Never been able to cope with somebody that I like doing this sort of neurotypical normal guy flirting with other people. It's just, I've always not been able to cope with it. But because I went on antidepressants, I started my antidepressants, then I was decisive and strong to cut out anything that wasn't healthy for me in my life. So I'm really proud about that, but I still get really insecure about people I really love that just not wanting me and other people taking them away. So I've always struggled with that and still do, really. And I don't really have any friends. No, I have all my friends are on the internet, but I do have friends when I go to Autistic, but during the rest of the year I don't really see anybody who isn't my family. So that's why I'm always on the internet, and that's why I absolutely adore Twitter and talking to all my friends on Twitter and watching YouTube. I love watching YouTube and meeting new friends on YouTube. But I don't know what to say anymore. It's hard. I think I'm going to stop here, and then I'm going to promise that I will do some more writing up for do some of the other questions. I have a question about synesthesia, which is a good one, and a question about how to interact with those with autism. So I need to do some clarification for those questions, and then I will be back with another video, because I really need to work out how I'm going to answer these and how my answers are, because I find it really hard to get it all out of my brain into a coherent manner. So I hope this has been a very useful and interesting first proper video into my autism education series, and I like all my hand gestures. So I hope this has been some help. If you want any more clarification of what I've said in this video, then I can do further videos to clarify. So please do keep your questions coming in. And I hope you have enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching. Yay!